Kizamde! Hop on the beat!
December brought us the release of the 4th issue of the JOJO Magazine. Starting back in March of 2022, it's been one of my favorite things to come out of JOJO lately, with each issue giving us a ton of JOJO content in one package. This time around we have the longest JOJO Magazine issue yet at 304 pages, bringing us 2 new manga chapters, a new short story, and as usual, a ton of behind-the-scenes content and interviews. So once again, let's dive into everything the new magazine has to offer. The main theme of this issue is La Squadra, the assassination team from Part 5. For the cover, we have a new illustration from Araki depicting all of the members, including Sorbet and Gelato. Many of these characters haven't been drawn by Araki at all since Part 5 itself, so it's really exciting to be able to see them again. This cover actually matches up with the new volume cover for the JOJO lands depicting the group in the same poses. Although one cute detail is that while Jodio's gang is giving a thumbs up, La Squadra is giving a thumbs down. The first feature in the magazine is a look at Araki's recent public art project, Fountain Boy. This was unveiled back in July at Osaka Station using a medium we haven't seen from Araki before, stained glass. This segment goes into detail on the piece's creation, with Araki first making the original drawing, and then glass being cut to fit with the patterns. Then the pieces are treated with a combination of paint and sandblasting to give them their finished look. Araki himself painted the face of the main subject using a special paint made from iron powder and glass. As a whole, the project uses 844 pieces of antique glass. After this, the glass was fired in a kiln and then assembled using a lead plate and putty before being installed in the final sphere-shaped base. Next, we have a section going over some of the inspiration behind the project, much of which we heard from Araki with the unveiling. The project was done to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Osaka Station, and Araki was commissioned for his unique artistic presence, and because of him being the first Japanese mangaka to collaborate with the Louvre. The idea behind the project comes from the bronze Fountain Boy statue that was erected with the station in 1901. It was eventually removed in 2011 and was moved to a museum. Araki worked with the stained glass artist Ryuji Nakano, who taught him how to paint the glass. Araki says that he was inspired by the image of the Roman Empire when designing the Fountain Boy and compares the pose he used to one we see from Jodio in Part 9. He chose to include stands due to the theme of water reminding him of stands as a natural phenomenon. He also included dragons because it's the year of the dragon, and other symbols like fruit and the sun and moon representing good fortune. Overall, Araki seems really happy with the piece, and I think it turned out really good as well. Next we have yet another continuation of Araki's book on writing manga, Hirohiko Araki's Manga Techniques, which was published in English as Manga in Theory and Practice. Some of these segments from the previous magazine were actually compiled and published as a sequel to that book, which discusses how Araki writes villains. The segment in this magazine isn't actually anything new, and it's just part of what ended up in that new book. The next segment is called 4 Keywords to Enjoy the JOJO Lands. There isn't too much to this part, it's just giving little key moments to summarize Part 9 as a whole. They pick out 4 phrases that best represent the part, which would roughly translate to full of thrills and criminal suspense, growth from immaturity, adventures in Hawaii for diamonds, and the enemy is a giant company. Then we have an advertisement for the Jodio Super Action statue. To order it, you actually have to use a code that you'll get from the magazine or December's Ultra Jump issue and then submit it online, which is similar to something they did with a t-shirt in one of the previous issues. I think the figure looks alright, but the arms just seem way too buff for Jodio and throws everything off. Now we have our first manga chapter of the issue, Toshikazu Hazamada's Questionable Adventure, a comedic one-shot story starring Hazamada from Part 4. I was definitely interested to learn more when they announced this since Hazamada is such an odd character to choose for a spin-off. It takes place before Hazamada's appearance in Part 4. At the start of the story, he says that he used to just pull minor pranks on people, but after gaining his stand ability, he feels he's become the main character of his own story. He uses Surface to do things like disguise as his teacher to buy a dirty magazine and to turn into his crush Junko like we heard about in Part 4. This is our first proper look at Junko, and just like before, he isn't able to get anywhere with her. We also see Hazamada's friend, who if you remember, he made to gouge out his own eye with his stand. The friend was just mentioned in the manga and only actually appeared in the anime, where he was named Sakai. In the spin-off, he has a different design and is instead named Genki Todo. Here we learned that the reason Hazamada attacked him was because he told him his favorite idol, Ru Hayama, has a boyfriend. He goes to a handshake event to try and make a copy of her to prove him wrong, but they're too suspicious of the mannequin hiding in his clothes and kick him out, with Surface copying the idol's manager in the process. We see that the idol is very cruelly dumped by her boyfriend, and Hazamada decides to blow off steam by attacking a random person with his stand who turns out to be the boyfriend. At the end, Hazamada thinks about how someday he'll be in the spotlight and feel like the protagonist of a story. On the final page though, we see when Rohan reads Hazamada saying none of his readers would ever like him in a manga. Overall, I actually enjoyed this story, and I think they did a good job of capturing Hazamada as this pathetic and creepy character, while simultaneously making him just a little bit likable. Right after this, we have an interview with the author, Kyosuke Usuta. He says that he's been reading Araki's work since Cool Shock BT and really admires his unique worldview when it comes to making manga. He says that when he was chosen to write the spin-off, he was pretty intimidated. He decided that he can't really write cool characters and that he should go with some of the uncool ones. At first he considered characters like Shigechi and Tamami for the role, before finally landing on Hazamada, who he says doesn't have a single cool thing about him. Since Hazamada's doll was destroyed by Josuke, he chose to make it a prequel and use the final Rohan scene as a punchline. Despite being meant to take place in 1999, the setting is sort of modern with characters using smartphones. Usuta says that he didn't really think of that when he wrote it, but says that around 1999 people were using PDAs, but that overall the manga isn't really about historical accuracy. When asked if he'd like to draw another spin-off, he actually says he can't do another one since he's never been so nervous. Now we move on to another big part of the book, a bunch of features all about the women of JoJo. First is one that's an analysis of Erina and how her spirit and values pass down through the other women of the Joestar family. It says that while Erina and Lisa aren't related by blood, they both played a role in raising Joseph into the kind of person he became. For Suzy Q, it says that they both cared wholeheartedly for their husbands. It also compares Erina's caring for Jonathan to how Suzy cares for Holly while she's sick. For Holly, it says that they both don't have the power to fight directly, but they act brave and believe in their family. We also have a comment here on Shizuka saying that Joseph and Suzy Q caring for the baby is similar to Erina saving Lisa. Next we compare Erina to Tomoko, who were both not only single mothers, but also both school teachers. Joseph and Josuke were also similarly raised without knowing the truth about their parents. Finally we have Jolene, who is said to inherit the love and devotion of Erina and the pride of the Joestar family, making her like a culmination of everyone that came before. Here they also draw a direct parallel between Jolene's personality and Erina's fortitude when she defied Dio. The next short segment, strangely enough, has two movie posters made to represent the main girls of Part 6 and then Lucy Steele in Part 7 while describing some of the main ideas of the characters. Then, scattered through the segments, we have a set of tribute illustrations for the women of JoJo drawn by a variety of artists. We have Jolene by Kamen, Yukiko by Peach Momoko, Foo Fighters by Zashiki Warashi, Yasuho by Mariko Enomoto, Lucy by Maki, Trish by F. Kaori, and Jolene by Yuko Higuchi. Next is a segment called Blooming Radiance, Those Noble Moments, showing off moments when the characters underwent a big change. So for Trish, we have the awakening of her stand ability. For Raimi, we have her finally defeating Kira in the Ghost Alley. With Foo Fighters, we have the moment when she says goodbye to her friends and leaves behind proof of her own life. Then we have two more very minor characters, Poco's sister in Part 1 where it shows her protecting her brother, and Diego's mother in Part 7 who told Diego to never forget about their dignity and poverty and encouraged him to pursue his talent as a jockey. Next is Yukiko's 11 Love Techniques. This one is set up like a dating advice feature you might see in a teen girls magazine, and gives 11 lessons from Yukiko on how to win over a boy. Number 1. Tell him your feelings directly. Number 2. Make him things like a hand-knitted sweater or a bento box. Number 3. Make sure to destroy any competition that gets in your way. Number 4. If the boy tries avoiding you, make sure you keep pushing and don't let him get away. Number 5. Take him on a vacation to a seaside villa. Number 6. Make sure his future is secure by educating him. Number 7. Let him know you'll still love him even if he wets himself. Number 8. Recognize the charm in his eyes. Number 9. Impress him with your DIY projects like an electric chair. Number 10. Win back his love by improving yourself. And the final lesson, that what really matters is caring for others at expense of yourself. The next section is called Revenge File and goes over all of the women in JoJo that got revenge. For Jolene, we have her getting back at her lawyer and her ex-boyfriend Romeo. Hermes got revenge against Sports Max. Lisa destroyed the zombie that killed her husband. Hato got revenge on Damo for manipulating her. Yukiko failed to get revenge on Aya for ruining her face, but was instead rewarded by her. And finally, Enya tried getting revenge on Polnareff and Whole Horse for her son's death. Then we have a feature on Yasuho going over her 3 biggest charms. First is all her different emotions and expressions, then how she isn't afraid to hold back what she says, and finally how she can always be relied on in times of need. Then we have a whole segment dedicated to the lesser known or background female characters of each part. Then there's a really detailed breakdown of the women of the Higashikata family in part 8. After that is a cute segment where we have the eyes of the women of JoJo in the style of Cinderella where you can guess who's who, followed by a list of all the women's stands in the series from parts 1 to 8. Then a short breakdown of Lisa's character. Now the next big segment is a personality quiz to determine which JoJo woman you're most like. The quiz has 21 numbered multiple choice questions. Depending on your answer, it can give you a number, which points you to another question, or some of the answers can give you a letter, which designates you as one of 10 women for your result. So for fun, let's actually go through the questions and see which character you get. Number 1. Suddenly you're kissed by a strange man. Do you slap him, rinse your mouth with mud, or cry? Number 2. Your mother gets a mysterious illness. Do you care for her, find out the cause, or who cares about my mother? Number 3. You're given a lighter and told to keep it lit, but it goes out. Do you relight it secretly, apologize, or fight back? Number 4. The shoeshine boy is sentenced to death. Do you think he should be executed? Do you say, I can't accept this, or do you leave the country? Number 5. You're lost and a strange girl offers to guide you. Do you think it's suspicious? Do you ask for help, or would you rather have tea? Number 6. Your teacher gives you a problem. How do you solve it? Do you work on it silently, give up because it's impossible, or think of how to get back at her? Number 7. Your father turns out to be a mafia boss. Do you agree to meet him? Are you too scared? Or do you defeat your father and become the boss? Number 8. A mysterious boy tells you not to meet your father. Do you meet your father anyway? Do you not meet him? Or do you tell on the boy? Number 9. You got Morio sesame dumplings as a souvenir. How do you eat it? Do you chew with your front teeth, chew with your back teeth, or swallow it in one breath? Number 10. You're attacked by a powerful enemy. Do you never give up, surrender and ask for forgiveness, or run away? Number 11. You found a boy you like. Do you confess, watch from the shadows, or invite to a villa? Number 12. Someone saved your life and confesses to you, but you have a husband. Do you accept, refuse, or put it on hold? Number 13. You found a traveling stowaway. Do you take her to the police, throw her in the sea, or let her go? Number 14. You're eating Italian food. What do you choose? Caprese salad, spaghetti alla puttanesca, or you'd rather have tea? Number 15. You're about to avenge your sister and you're surrounded by invisible zombies. Do you get revenge? Do you get revenge and escape? Or do you escape before getting revenge? Number 16. Which fruit do you bring when you visit a friend? The luxury melon, the favorite grapes, or the most popular strawberry? Number 17. Your dog won't let go of your toy. Do you get it back no matter what? Do you give up, or do you just let him have it? Number 18. The enemy is approaching. Do you shoot without hesitation, run away, or wait it out? Number 19. Your team leader defected from the boss. Do you not go against the boss? Do you follow him? Or do you think the boss is scary but you just don't want to be left behind? Number 20. Choose between defeating the enemy or protecting what's important. Do you protect what's important, defeat the enemy, or you can't choose? And number 21. You're stuck in a traffic jam. Do you wait, find a detour, or drive on the sidewalk? So now we get to the final results. If you got A, you're Erina. If you got B, you're Lisa. If you got C, you're Holly. If you got D, you're Yukiko. If you got E, you're Trish. If you got F, you're Jolene. If you got G, you're Lucy Steele. If you got H, you're Yasuho. If you got I, you're Hermes. And if you got J, you're Enya. Finally, to cap off this segment, we have a selection of old quotes from Araki on how his writing of women changed over the years. Next, we have an interview with the South Korean actress Ha Yeon-soo. Much like the interview with Eliza Ikeda in the last issue, she doesn't have any official connection to JoJo, but is a fan of the series. She says that she became interested in the series when Stone Ocean released on Netflix, and the series helped her to learn Japanese. She says that she really related to Jolene since she had played a prisoner in her drama The Legendary Witch. Her favorite character is Jolene, but when asked what character she would like to play as an actor, she actually chooses FF, saying she's too short for Jolene. In the next section, a group of manga artists choose their favorite JoJo illustrations. George Asakura, the creator of the series Dance Dance Dancer, chooses this illustration of Giorno. Yuki Suetsugu, the creator of Chihaya Furu, chooses 2 illustrations of Rohan. And Posaka Demizu, the artist for The Promised Neverland and the recent Cool Shock Old BT, chooses the 2nd volume cover of the JoJo Lands and volume 13 of Stone Ocean. Now we move on to an announcement for the Blu-ray of the Phantom Blood musical. In case you didn't know about it already, this was a stage musical adaptation of Phantom Blood which ran in 2024. I loved it and it turned out to be one of my favorite JoJo adaptations to date, so I am planning on making a big video on it sometime in the future. Here to celebrate the Blu-ray is a conversation between Mamoru Miyano, the actor for Dio, and Yoshio Kubo, the costume designer. They speak about the design process for the costumes, and that the director told them to stray from how they might have appeared in the manga itself. The clothes designed in the manga weren't actually made to be worn in real life, and just replicating them to be one-to-one would end up just looking like a cosplay. Kubo decided to try and balance between flashiness and something that someone might actually wear in real life, which I think had very good results. When asked what their favorite costumes were other than Jonathan or Dio, Kubo chooses Wang Chan, who was played in the show by Junpei Shimada. Miyano chooses Speedwagon, who is played by the Japanese rapper Young Days. They also comment on the costumes of the background dancers, which represent the Ripple. They move on to Miyano's portrayal of Dio. He says that he actually auditioned for the role of Dio in the anime but didn't get the part, so he was excited to finally get an opportunity to play the character. Next is a segment dedicated to the members of La Squadra from Part 5. First it goes through each member of the team, describing their stand ability and the role they played in the story. It even has a section dedicated to Sorbet and Gelato. However, we don't actually learn anything new about them. The section says that it is uncertain whether they had stands or how they carried out their assassinations. We also get a bit on each of the more minor members of Passione as well. Then we have a compilation of quotes from the team, which showcases how each of them worked together and shared information among their group. We also got a couple pages dedicated to the team's portrayal in the anime, where 2 of the producers discussed the decision to include some anime original scenes featuring the whole group. They also described their scouting trips to Italy, where they decided on the location to use as the basis for La Squadra's hideout. When designing the team members for the anime, they had to decide on the heights of the characters. For example, they chose to make Illuso tall because he was Abakio's opponent, and that Ghiaccio was made shorter to contrast with his personality. They then sent the height chart off to Araki himself for approval. Prior to the release of the issue, there was a poll asking fans various questions about La Squadra. The results of the poll are featured in the magazine, so first we have a section showing off all the favorite quotes from the readers. Then, much like the last issue, we have a section with some themed outfits, this time to match all of the members of La Squadra, including Sorbet and Gelato. Then we get a section called La Squadra's Last Supper, where they focus on the food culture around the areas where La Squadra fought. Here we get a recipe for something called timbalo, which is a kind of baked noodle dish. Next we have a segment looking at locations all around Italy, as well as the average rent prices to show what it's like to study there abroad. This also includes some floor plans for places like the Turtle Room or La Squadra's hideout. Then there's another fan submission segment, this time with readers being asked how they would use La Squadra's stand abilities. For Little Feet, one person says they'd use it to solve the population crisis by shrinking everyone. Another would use it to shrink down to save on food prices. For Man in the Mirror, one says they'd use it to avoid crowds and tourist spots by just exploring the empty mirror version instead, or just using it to be alone in general. For the Grateful Dead, they'd use its power to ripen avocados or age wine. One person jokes that the fog seems like it'd work as a mosquito repellent, and another says they just think the stand is cute and would want to keep it as a pet. For Beach Boy, they say they'd use it to grab the TV remote from far away when they're too lazy, and another just wants to use it to catch fish. For Babyface, one says they'd use it to track down their dog that keeps running away. Another person wants to be a nursery school teacher and wants to practice teaching using the stand. With White Album, one person writing from Thailand says they'd use the stand to keep cool, and another wants to use it to break the world record for diving. Finally, with Metallica, one person says they're anemic and would use it to manage their own iron level, and another wants to use the stand to create a wedding ring. Next is a segment that interviews Masahiro Suzuki, a University of Tokyo professor researching AI. They ask him to compare how AI learns to how the stand Babyface is shown to learn. This is followed by a segment going over each member of La Squadra and which other member of Passione they would team up best with. Here they match Formaggio with Fugo, Illuso with Fugo, Prosciutto is just matched with Pesci like in the original manga, Pesci is matched with Narancia, Melone is matched with Ghiaccio, since the two are shown interacting, and Ghiaccio is also matched with Aluso. Risotto is matched with Bucciarati, and finally Sorbet and Gelato are still together. Then we have some trivia about Italy, which goes into the origins of the Mafia and many of the Italian phrases the characters use in the story. For the last bit of fan submissions, we have some reader-submitted questions directed at La Squadra. Overall, they're just some very flowery messages complimenting the bonds and resolve of the team members. Then we actually have an advertisement for a line of La Squadra fragrances in collaboration with the company NAS. For the magazine's new short story, we have one titled My Prized Hook and Line, which is focused on Pesci and Prosciutto. It follows the two on a mission to investigate a brothel and assassinate the boss, a man named Argo. From what I could tell, while it is very short, it does have some funny interactions between the two, so I'm interested in checking it out if it gets a full translation. After that, we move directly to the second manga chapter of the issue, Cool Shock Guy BT, a follow-up to Cool Shock Old BT, now following BT as a young man. Like the others, the story is written by Nisio Isin, creator of the Monogatari series, and illustrated by Posaka Demizu. This one is titled The Smoker Under Arms Incident, referencing Araki's first published manga, Poker Under Arms. Rather than just being a direct copy of that story like the last Old BT chapter was, this one is mostly original and just features a character that's directly based on one from that original story. This one follows BT working as a Las Vegas magician who is told to thwart a cheater at the roulette table. Like all the other new BT chapters, this contains a gigantic number of references to JOJO and other Araki manga, so I'll be making a video sometime soon dedicated to just going over all of those. Overall though, I'd say it's a solid BT chapter just like the others. Returning from the last issue is also another set of JOJO quiz questions, so just like last time, I'd like to go through them so you can see just how well you'll do. Question 1. Match the characters to their dialogue. The characters here are Scarlet Valentine, Carrera, Yasuho, and Jolene. Now, I actually pulled up the same speech bubbles they used here in English, but the translation does differ a bit, and I've censored names to not completely give it away. Now that you're done guessing, this is the correct answer. Question 2. When Polnareff was shrunken down by Alessi's stand, which game does he play with the woman? Was it Sugoroku, playing cards, rock, paper, scissors, or Shirotori? The answer is number 3, rock, paper, scissors. Question 3. Due to the power of the saint's corpse, choose all of the objects that merge with Hot Pants' body. The answers are a spider, flies, claws, and a window frame. The answer is all of them. Question 4. Which of these characters is Jodio's mother? The answer is number 2. The other characters here are Leo's girlfriend, the DEA agent, and Sophie White, the clerk at the land registry. Question 5. In order to maintain the effects of Cinderella, what thing must you do every 30 minutes except when you're sleeping? The answers are look in the mirror, apply lipstick, draw eyeliner, or fix your hair. The answer, of course, is applying lipstick. Question 6. How did Erina react when Joseph asked about her relationship with Speedwagon? Did she remain silent, blush, say they're friends, or beat him with an umbrella? The answer is, she beat him with an umbrella. Question 7. Which Italian city does Ghiaccio want everyone to say in Italian? The answer is Venice, which he wants people to call Venezia. Question 8. What kind of insect did Formaggio use his stand to shrink to get Narancia to reveal the location of Trish? Was it a bee, ants, scorpions, or a spider? The answer is number 4, a spider. Question 9. What does Melone believe is most important about the mother's behavior to create the stand babyface? The answer is how they prefer to kiss. That's all of the questions, so let me know which ones you got correct in the comments. For the final segment, we have yet another meeting between Araki and his former editor, Ryosuke Kabashima. He was Araki's editor during the first 3 parts of JOJO and was massively influential on JOJO's story. Each issue of the magazine has been bookended by a meeting between the two, this one taking place in August of 2024. One of the main themes of their discussion this time was music, with each of them bringing a selection of CDs to share. Araki brought albums by Sade, AC/DC, Pat Metheny, and Prince, while Kabashima brought Jeff Beck, Canned Heat, a classical cello composition, Van Halen, and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Araki also cooked for them again, making roasted tomato, seafood pasta, and a Spanish omelet. We even get to see Araki's personal recipe book with illustrations. Araki says that the first album he ever bought was Close to the Edge by Yes, before moving on to Led Zeppelin and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Already you can see how all three of those ended up influencing early JoJo. Araki says that he avoids buying music digitally and still seeks out physical CDs to listen to. And that's everything we've got in this issue of the JOJO Magazine. Once again, the magazine is always a treat to read through, even with a limited understanding of what's written. The new stories we got were quite good, and as always I found some pretty interesting stuff in all the little features they included. Like I said, I'm planning to do a video at least covering that new BT chapter, along with some more big projects as we move into 2025. In one of my recent videos, I celebrated reaching 300,000 subscribers, and I showed off and recommended some of my favorite series outside of JoJo. Some of those I'd actually like to make videos on, like the Yakuza series. If you're at all interested, I recommend checking that video out since I hope people enjoy what I recommend. When it comes to JoJo, I've been somewhat slower with videos, but I'm starting to get some more ideas of smaller topics to cover, along with continuing my bigger video series, and finally some really big video projects I'm looking forward to sharing. Now that we've arrived in the new year, I also want to mention the upcoming JoJo Day event in April, celebrating the past and future of the JoJo anime. Based on that wording, I'm very much expecting that we'll get some word on the Steel Ball Run anime adaptation, and if we get that announcement, I'll definitely be covering it in a future video. To stay updated on future uploads, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. You can also join the Hom and Beat Discord to get notified on new videos and any important JoJo news. Finally, I'd appreciate if you help support the channel on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube member below. All supporters get their names featured at the end of the video and can submit viewer questions. This video's question comes from Azon Cheers. They ask, what is my proudest piece of merch that I own? Well, sticking to JoJo, I'm pretty proud of owning all the major art books from the series. When it comes to figures, I'm sort of picky and only like seeking out very specific characters. Since I love the live-action Rohan drama, I of course got the photorealistic Issei Takahashi Rohan figure. I have a good amount of super action statues of my favorite characters and stands, but I'm mostly looking forward to the Steel Ball Run ones that are coming soon. I also really love this Charlotte hand puppet merch that I was able to get, since I always thought that was such a weird and hilarious character in Stone Ocean. My proudest pieces though are from the Real Action Heroes line, specifically my figure of BT and most of all Dead Man's Question's Kira. I've always loved that story and design, enough that I've made it my profile picture on YouTube, so finally being able to track down this figure for a reasonable price felt like a huge accomplishment, and it's probably the crown jewel of my JoJo merch. As for non-JoJo stuff, I have a ton relating to Kamen Rider or One Piece. But as those of you that watched my 300k subscriber video know, I also love the obscure tokusatsu sitcoms from Shotaro Ishinomori, and one of my most prized pieces of merch is the quite rare official doll of Nemulin, which I received as a gift last year. If you have no idea what this is, again I recommend checking out the video I mentioned where I go over it. If you want to submit a question, you can become a patron or member at any tier and leave them in the Patreon community chat or in the members-only community post on YouTube. I try to answer one question per video, so if you join, feel free to submit as many as you want since they're all likely to be featured. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video where I thank my $5 and up patrons. Thank you to Doorbell, Crayon, Rigovids, Zucato, Pumpkin Doge, Marrow, Sponge Cake, Cakext, Feliciano Rabaja, Rayana Meme, Christian McDonough, Emmanuel Etienne, Pulse Dog, Zach Greenfield, FIFO, Rob Goliath, Jacob Smith, Big T, Minty, Gold, Red Hot Mayonnaise, Monticelli, Zenkai, Royal Slush, Keenan, Perry, Noland, John Braun, Cho Henshin, Saint Bobo, Max Verstappen, Kira Not Yoshikage, John Garcia, Allegor, and Crank and Plank.